Welcome back tonight. As you can see, we have a packed audience here in New Hampshire, and we're going to continue. We've already had a spirited conversation here at the top of the broadcast about ISIS, about concerns of terror here on the home front. And as we await Secretary Clinton backstage here, we're going to begin on the economy. We want to turn to the American jobs, wages, and raises in this country. And we believe Secretary Clinton will be coming around the corner any minute. But in the meantime, we want to start with this eye-opening number. And Senator Sanders, this question goes to you first anyway. In 1995, the median American household income was $52,600 in today's money. This year, it's $53,600. That's 20 more years on the job with just a 2% raise. In a similar time frame, raises for CEOs up more than 200%.
Sorry.
We're going to continue here, and Secretary, you'll get a chance on this too. But as I pointed out, the CEO pay up 200% of that time, for that family up just 2%. You've all said you would raise the minimum wage, but Senator Sanders, what else? Speak to that household tonight. 20 years, just a 2% raise. How, as president, would you get them a raise right away?
First of all, we recognized that we have a rigged economy, as you've indicated. Middle class in this country for the last 40 years has been disappearing. Are we better off today than we were when Bush left office? Absolutely. But as you've indicated, for millions of American workers, people in New Hampshire, all over America, they're working longer hours for low wages, deeply worried about their kids. So what do? First statement we make is we tell the billionaire class they cannot have it all. For a start, they're going to start paying their fair share of taxes. Second of all, we do is you raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour over the next several years. Next thing we do, pay equity for women workers. Women should not be making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Next thing that we do, real unemployment, official unemployment 5%, real unemployment 10%, youth unemployment off the charts. We rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our rail system. We create 13 million jobs with $1 trillion investment. Furthermore, in a competitive global economy, it is imperative that we have the best educated workforce in the world. That is why I'm going to have a tax on Wall Street speculation to make certain that public colleges and universities in America are tuition free.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Governor Malley, what would you propose that would be different? How would you get the middle class a raise and without waiting another 20 years for another 2%?
Look, these are the things that we did in my own state through the recession. We actually passed a living wage. We raised the minimum wage. We actually raised to the highest goals of any state in the nation, our minority and women participation goals, because we understood that the way you reinvigorate and make fair market American capitalism work is to make the choices and the investments that include more people more fully in the economic success of your state. All through the recession, we defended the highest median income in America and the second highest median income for African American families. How? By actually doing more for education. We increased education funding by 37%. We were the only state in America that went 4 years in a row without a penny's increase to college tuition. We invested more in our infrastructure, and we squared our shoulders to the great business opportunity of this era, and that is moving our economy to a 100% clean electric energy future. We created 2,000 new jobs in the solar industry, and we fought every single day to adopt more inclusive economic practices. So, David, the conclusion of all of those things is this. They weren't hopes, they weren't dreams. They weren't amorphous goals out there. We actually took actions to do these things. And as president, I have put forward 15 strategic goals that will make wages go up again for all American families. Universal national service as an option for every kid in America to cut youth unemployment. And I am the only candidate on this stage to put forward a new agenda for America's cities so we can employ more people in the hearts of great American cities and get them back to work.
Governor, thank you. Secretary Clinton, as you were walking in, I was talking about the median American household getting a 2% raise over the last 20 years. That CEO pay in that same time frame has gone up 200%. So for those families watching tonight, how do you get them a raise if you're president?
Well, I've been talking to a lot of these families, and this is such an outrage, both because it's bad for our economy. We're a 70% consumption economy. People need to feel optimistic and confident. They need to believe that their hard work is going to be rewarded, and it's bad for our democracy. It's absolutely the case that if people feel that the game is rigged, that has consequences. I think it's great standing up here with the senator and the governor talking about these issues, because you're not going to hear anything like this from any of the Republicans who are running for president. They don't want to raise the minimum wage. They don't want to do anything to increase incomes. At the center of my economic policy is raising incomes, because people haven't been able to get ahead, and the cost of everything from college tuition to prescription drugs has gone up. Of course, we have to raise the minimum wage. Of course, we have to do more to incentivize profit sharing, like we see with Market Basket right here in New Hampshire and New England, where all of the employees get a chance to share in the profits. And we've got to do more on equal pay for equal work. That means pass the Paycheck Fairness Act so we have transparency about how much people are making. That's the way to get women's wages up, and that's good for them and good for their families and good for our communities. And there is a lot we can do in college affordability. I have debt-free tuition plans, free community college plans, getting student debt down. I also am very committed to getting the price of drugs down, and there's a lot. You can go to my website, HillaryClinton.com, and read about it. But I guess the final thing that I would say is this is the kind of debate we need to take to the Republicans in the fall.
Secretary, thank you.
This is the election issue they have to respond to.
And we're going to talk about college education in a moment. But Secretary Clinton, I did want to ask you, the last time you ran for president, Fortune magazine put you on its cover with the headline, "Business Loves Hillary," pointing out your support for many CEOs in corporate America. I'm curious, 8 years later, should corporate America love Hillary Clinton?
Everybody should. Said I want to be the president for the struggling, the striving, and the successful. I want to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share, which they have not been doing. I want the Buffett rule to be in effect, where millionaires have to pay 30% tax rates instead of 10% to nothing in some cases. I want to make sure we rein in the excessive use of political power to feather the nest and support the super wealthy. But I also want to create jobs, and I want to be a partner with the private sector. I'm particularly keen on creating jobs in small business. My dad was a small businessman, a really small business. I want to do more to help incentivize and create more small businesses. So if people who are in the private sector know what I stand for, it's what I fought for as a senator, it's what I will do as president, and they want to be part of, once again, building our economy so it works for everybody, more power to them, because they are the kind of business leaders who understand that if we don't get the American economy moving and growing, we're not going to recognize our country, and we're not going to give our kids the same opportunities that we had.
Secretary, thank you. Senator Sanders, I want to stay on this and ask you, how big a role does corporate America play in a healthy economy, and will corporate America love a President Sanders?
No, I think they won't. So Hillary and I have a difference. The CEOs of large multinationals may like Hillary. They ain't going to like me, and Wall Street is going to like me even less. And the reason for that is we've got to deal with the elephant in the room, which is the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior on Wall Street. When you have 6 financial institutions in this country that issue 2/3 of the credit cards and 1/3 of the mortgages, when 3 out of 4 of them are larger today than when we bailed them out because they are too big to fail. We have got to reestablish Glass-Steagall. We have got to break the large financial institutions up. So I don't think, having said that, I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot of campaign contributions from Wall Street. I don't have a super PAC. I don't want campaign contributions from corporate America. And let me be clear. While there are some great corporations creating jobs and trying to do the right thing, in my view, and I say this very seriously, the greed of the billionaire class, the greed of Wall Street, is destroying this economy and is destroying the lives of millions of Americans. We need an economy that works for the middle class, not just a handful of billionaires, and I will fight and lead to make that happen.
Senator, thank you. I want to take this question to Governor O'Malley. Governor, let me just ask you, though, because it is an important question. How important a role do you think corporate America plays in a healthy economy here in the U.S.?
Look, I look at our economy and it's an ecosystem. And the fact of the matter is that the more fully people participate, the more our workers earn, the more they will spend, the more our economy will grow. And most heads of businesses, large, medium, and small, understand that. But there is a better way forward than either of those offered by my two opponents here on this stage. We're not going to fix what ails our economy. We're not going to make wages go up for everyone by either trying to replace American capitalism with socialism, which, by the way, the rest of the world is moving away from, nor will we fix it by submitting to sort of Wall Street-directed crony capitalism. And for my part, I have demonstrated the ability to have the backbone to take on Wall Street in ways that Secretary Clinton never, ever has. In fact, in the last debate, very shamefully, she tried to hide her cozy relationship with Wall Street big banks by invoking the attacks of 9/11. I believe that the way forward for our country is to actually reinvigorate our antitrust department with the directive to promote fair competition. There's mergers that are happening in every aspect of our country that is bad for competition, and it's bad for upward mobility of wages. And the worst type of concentration, Secretary Clinton, is the concentration of the big banks, the big six banks that you went to and spoke to and told them, oh, you weren't responsible for the crash, not by a long shot. And that's why today, you still cannot support, as I do, breaking up the big banks and making sure that we pass a modern-day Glass-Steagall like we had in late 1999 before it was repealed and led to the crash where so many millions of families lost their jobs and their homes. And I was on the front lines of that, looking into the eyes of my neighbors.
Governor O'Malley, thank you. I do want to ask you, Secretary Clinton. Let me just ask you.
Let me respond.
Secretary Clinton, let me just ask you.
David, so let me respond very quickly. Number one.
And in particular.
Number one, there are currently 2 hedge fund billionaires running ads against me here in New Hampshire. They started in Iowa. Now, you would have to ask yourself, why are they running ads against me? And the answer is because they know I will go right after them, that I will not let their agenda be America's agenda. Secondly, I think it's important to point out that about 3% of my donations come from people in the finance and investment world. You can go to opensecrets.org and check that. I have more donations from students and teachers than I do from people associated with Wall Street. Now, number 3, and let me say this. When Governor O'Malley was heading the Democratic Governors Association, he had no trouble at all going to Wall Street to raise money to run campaigns for Democratic governors. And he also had no trouble appointing an investment banker to be in charge of his Consumer Protection Bureau when he was governor. So, you know, again, the difference between us and the Republicans is night and day. And there is only one person on this stage who voted to take away authority from the SEC and the Commodities Future Trading Commission that they could no longer regulate what are called swaps and derivatives, which actually contributed to the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and that was Senator Sanders. So if we're going to be talking like this, we can, and maybe we can score some political points, but the fact is, every one of us stands for the kind of economy that will work better for every American, and if that means taking on Wall Street, I have a plan that is tough and comprehensive and praised by a lot of folks who say it goes further than what both Senator Sanders and Governor O'Malley are proposing.
Let me just jump in.
He gets to respond to that.
My name was invoked.
Senator?
So without invocation, let me say a few words. Secretary Clinton, I don't have a super PAC. I don't get any money from Wall Street. You have gotten a whole lot of money over the years from Wall Street, but most importantly, when you look at what happened in the 1990s, go to berniesanders.com. I'll advertise my website as well. And what you'll find is that I helped lead the effort as a member of the House Financial Committee against Alan Greenspan, against a guy named Bill Clinton, maybe you know him, maybe you don't, against the Republican leadership, who all thought it would be a great idea to merge investor banks and commercial banks and large insurance companies. What a brilliant idea that would be. Go to YouTube, find out what I said to Greenspan. At the end of the day, if Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, and the governor makes a good point about anti-trade, anti-monopoly activities. Wall Street today has too much political power. It has too much economic power to get deregulated. Listen to this. They spent $5 billion in lobbying and campaign contributions over a 10-year period.
Senator Sanders.
Wall Street is a threat to the economy. They've got to be broken up.
Thank you, Senator.
And we're going to move on to health care. Secretary Clinton, the Department of Health and Human Services says more than 17 million Americans who are not insured now have health coverage because of Obamacare. But for Americans who already had health insurance, the cost has gone up 27% in the last 5 years, while deductibles are up 67%. Healthcare costs are rising faster than many Americans can manage. What's broken in Obamacare that needs to be fixed right now, and what would you do to fix it?
Well, I would certainly build on the successes of the Affordable Care Act and work to fix some of the glitches that you just referenced. Number one, we do have more people who have access to health care. We have ended the terrible situation that people with pre-existing conditions were faced with, where they couldn't find at any affordable price health care. Women are not charged more than men any longer for our health insurance, and we keep young people on our policies until they turn 26. Those are all really positive developments. But out-of-pocket costs have gone up too much, and prescription drug costs have gone through the roof. And so what I have proposed, number one, is a $5,000 tax credit to help people who have very large out-of-pocket costs be able to afford those. Number two, I want Medicare to be able to negotiate for lower drug prices, just like they negotiate with other countries' health systems. We end up paying the highest prices in the world. And I want us to be absolutely clear about making sure the insurance companies in the private employer policy arena, as well as in the Affordable Care exchanges, are properly regulated so that we are not being gamed. And I think that's an important point to make, because I'm going through and analyzing the points you were making, Martha. We don't have enough competition, and we don't have enough oversight of what the insurance companies are charging everybody right now.
But you did say those were glitches.
Yes.
Just glitches?
Well, they're glitches because
27% in the last 5 years, deductibles up 67%?
It is, because part of this is the startup challenges that this system is facing. We have fought as Democrats for decades to get a health care plan. I know, I've got the scars to show from the effort back in the early 90s. We want to build on it and fix it, and I am confident we can do that. And it will have effects in the private market. And one of the reasons in some states why the percentage cost has gone up so much is because governors there would not extend Medicaid. And so people are still going to get health care, thankfully, in emergency rooms, in hospitals. Those costs are then added to the overall cost, which does increase the insurance premiums for people in the private system.
I was on the committee.
Senator Sanders, I want you to respond to what she was saying, but you're instead calling for single-payer health care.
Exactly.
You note people won't have to pay deductibles or premiums, but they will have to pay new taxes.
Yes.
Can you tell us specifically how much people will be expected to pay?
But let me say this. As a member of the Health Education Committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act, much of what Secretary Clinton said about what we have done, among other things, ending the obscenity of this pre-existing situation, is a step forward. 17 million more people have health care. It is a step forward. But this is what we also have to say. Not only are deductibles rising, 29 million Americans still have no health insurance, and millions of people can't afford to go to the doctor. Major crisis in primary health care. Here is the bottom line. Why is it that the United States of America today is the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right? Why is it that we spend almost 3 times per capita as to what they spend in the UK, 50% more than what they pay in France, countries that guarantee health care to all of their people and in many cases have better health care outcomes? Bottom line, this ties into campaign finance reform. The insurance companies, the drug companies are bribing the United States Congress. We need to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system. It will lower the cost of health care for a middle-class family by thousands of dollars a year.
Senator Sanders, you didn't really tell us specifically how much people will be expected to pay.
But they will not be paying, Martha, any private insurance. So it's unfair to say in total.
But you can't tell us a specific number.
I can tell you that adding up the
roughly.
fact that you are not paying any private insurance, businesses are not paying any private insurance, the average middle-class family will be saving thousands of dollars a year.
Okay, let's go to talk about the high cost of college education. And for that, we turn to the executive director of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics, right here at St. Anselm College, Neil Levesque. Neil?
Here to New Hampshire again. As you know, this audience is filled with many St. Anselm College students, and they know that the outstanding student debt right now in America is $1.3 trillion. That private education costs have gone up in the last decade 26% and 40% for public education. So knowing that, we know that you want to make higher education more affordable. But how do you really lower the costs? Senator Sanders, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you want free tuition for public colleges. How does that really lower the costs other than just shifting the cost to taxpayers?
Well, Neil, I think we have got to work on a two-pronged approach. And your point is absolutely well taken. The cost of college education is escalating a lot faster than the cost of inflation. There are a lot of factors involved in that. And that is that we have some colleges and universities that are spending a huge amount of money on fancy dormitories and on giant football stadiums. Maybe we should focus on quality education with well-paid faculty members. But, and I understand that in many universities, a heck of a lot of vice presidents who earn a big salary. But bottom line is, this is the year 2015. If we are going to be competitive in the global economy, we need the best educated workforce. It is insane, to my mind, hundreds of thousands of young people today, bright, qualified people, cannot go to college because they cannot afford, their families cannot afford to send them. Millions coming out of school, as you indicated, deeply in debt. What do? My proposal is to put a speculation tax on Wall Street, raise very substantial sums of money, not only make public colleges and universities tuition free, but also substantially lower interest rates on student debt. You have families out there paying 6, 8, 10% on student debt, refinance their homes at 3%. What sense is that? So I think we need radical changes in the funding of higher education. We should look at college today the way high school was looked at 60 years ago. All young people who have the ability should be able to get a college education.
Governor O'Malley. Yes. Governor O'Malley, how do you propose lowering some of these costs that are associated with higher education?
Yeah, this one falls under the category of I have actually done this. As a governor, we actually made the greater investments so that we could go 4 years in a row without a penny's increase to college tuition. My plan actually goes further than Senator Sanders, because a big chunk of the cost is actually room and board and books and fees. So as a nation, we need to increase what we invest in Pell Grants. Yes, we need to make it easier for parents to refinance, but states need to do more as well. And I propose a block grant program that will keep the states in the game as well. I believe that all of our kids should go into an income-based repayment plan. I'm joined tonight by my 2 daughters, Tara and Grace. My oldest daughter's a teacher. Man, their mother's here as well. We were proud of them on graduation day, weren't we, Katie? And we're going to be proud every month for the rest of our lives. I mean, we had to borrow so much money to send them to college, and we're not the only ones. There are families all across America who aren't able to contribute to our economy because of this crushing student loan. I also propose that we can pay for this with a tax on high-volume trades, and we need to, because my dad went to college after coming back from World War II on a GI Bill. But today, we're the only nation on the planet that's saddling our kids with a lifetime of bills. That's a drag on the economy. It's one of the key investments we need to make. I was flattered that Secretary Clinton, 2 months later, borrowed so many of my proposals to incorporate into hers. And in our party, unlike the Republican Party, we actually believe that the more our people learn, the more they will earn, and higher education should be a right for every kid.
Secretary Clinton.
Right.
Secretary Clinton, how does your plan differentiate from your opponents?
Well, I have what I call the New College Compact, because I think everybody has to have some skin in this game, Neil. Number one, states have been disinvesting in higher education. In fact, I think New Hampshire in-state tuition for public college and university is among the highest, if not the highest, in the country. So states over a period of decades have put their money elsewhere, into prisons, into highways, into things other than higher education. So under my compact, the federal government will match money that the states begin to put back in to the higher education system. Secondly, I don't believe in free tuition for everybody. I believe we should focus on middle-class families, working families, and poor kids who have the ambition and the talent to go to college and get ahead. So I have proposed debt-free tuition, which I think is affordable, and I would move a lot of the Pell Grant and other aid into the arena where it could be used for living expenses. So I've put all this together, again, on my website, and am pleased that I've gotten such a good response. But I want to quickly say that one of the areas that Senator Sanders touched on in talking about education, and certainly talking about health care, is his commitment to really changing the systems. Free college, a single-payer system for health care. And it's been estimated we're looking at $18 to $20 trillion, about a 40% increase in the federal budget. And I have looked at his proposed plans for health care, for example, and it really does transfer every bit of our health care system, including private health care, to the states to have the states run. And I think we've got to be really thoughtful about how we're going to afford what we propose, which is why everything that I have proposed, I will tell you exactly how I'm going to pay for it, including college.
Can I
Thank you,
respond
Secretary
to
Clinton.
the critique
Thank you.
on
Neil,
health
thank
care?
Back to you, David.
Thank you. We're going to get right into this, Senator, because I want to ask about taxes next,
My
and this
name
is included.
was just
She was asking about that.
But Secretary Clinton is wrong. As you know, because I know you know a lot about health care, you know that the United States per capita pays far and away more than any other country. And it is unfair simply to say how much more the program will cost without making sure that people know we are doing away with the cost of private insurance, and that the middle class will be paying substantially less for health care on the single payer than on the Secretary Clinton's proposal.
Well, the only thing I can
Secretary
go on,
Clinton,
Senator
hold on
Sanders,
one moment.
is your
Senator Sanders,
proposals,
I
and
do
your
want to ask-
proposals go
I want to
and
ask
send the
about
health care
Secretary Clinton.
system to the
Secretary
states.
Clinton, please.
And my analysis is that you are going to have to get more taxes out of middle-class families. I'm the only
So let's
person
ask
on this
about that.
stage
Secretary Clinton,
saying
let's turn to
no
taxes.
middle-class tax raises. That
Which is where we're
off
going
the
next.
table as
We
far
are
as I'm
going next to
concerned.
taxes here.
Now this is getting to be fun.
This is fun. This is democracy at work. And Secretary Clinton, let me ask you about your tax plan, because from the crushing cost of college education, the next question most families have is, will my taxes go up under the next president? You have said it's your goal not to raise taxes on families making under $250,000 a year, a goal. But can you say that's a promise as you stand here tonight?
That is a pledge that I'm making. I made it
A
when I
promise?
ran in 2008, yes. And it was the same one that President Obama made. Because I don't think we should be imposing new big programs that are going to raise middle-class families' taxes. We just heard that most families haven't had a wage increase since 2001, since, you know, the end of the last Clinton administration, when incomes did go up for everybody. And we've got to get back to where people can save money again, where they can invest in their families, and I don't think a middle-class tax should be part of anybody's plan right now.
Let me respond.
Secretary
in two
Clinton,
ways. Let me respond in two
please.
ways. Number one, most important economic reality of today is that over the last 30 years, there has been a transfer of trillions of dollars from the middle class to the top 1/10% who have seen a doubling of the percentage of wealth that they own. Now, when Secretary Clinton says, I'm not going to raise taxes on the middle class, let me tell you what she is saying. She is disagreeing with FDR and Social Security, LBJ on Medicare, and with the vast majority of progressive Democrats in the House and the Senate who today are fighting to end the disgrace of the United States being the only major country on earth that doesn't provide paid family and medical leave. What the legislation is $1.61 a week. Now, you can say that's a tax on the middle class. It will provide 3 months paid family and medical leave for the working families of this country. I think, Secretary Clinton, $1.61 a week is a pretty good investment.
Senator, thank you. I want to bring in Governor O'Malley on this. And Governor O'Malley, let me ask.
For paid family leave for a very
Secretary
long time.
Clinton.
David, thank you.
I have a way to pay for it that
David, thank you
actually
for-
makes the wealthiest pay for it.
Then join us. Well, every
not
progressive
everybody else.
Democrat and senator is supportive of this proposal introduced by your good friend and my good friend, Kirsten Gillibrand, Rosa DeLauro. That is the legislation out there that will finally provide family and medical
Thank you. I
leave.
want to bring in Governor O'Malley on this. We heard the promise there from Secretary Clinton because people want to know about their taxes. Will they go up? She has now promised here tonight not to raise them on families making $250,000 or less. Can you make that same promise if you're elected?
No, I've never made a promise like that, but unlike either of these two fine people, I've actually balanced the budget every single year. I was one of only 7 states that had a AAA bond rating. By the time I left, the average tax burden on Maryland families was the same as when I started, but I did pass a more progressive income tax and asked the highest earning people to pay another 14%. David, look, this is the big, I agree, by the way, that we should have paid family leave. And I agree with Senator Sanders on that. And just like Social Security, and unlike the Republicans, I think we should actually expand Social Security and increase average monthly benefits. But look, there's one big entitlement we can no longer afford as a country. And that is the entitlement that the super wealthy among us, those earning more than $1 million, feel that they're entitled to pay lower income tax rates and a far lower preferred income tax rate when it comes to capital gains. If we were to raise the marginal rate to 45% for people earning more than $1 million, and if we tax capital gains essentially the same we do earnings from hard work and sweat and toil, you could generate $800 billion over the next 10 years. And that would do so much good for affordable college, debt-free college, cutting youth unemployment in half, investing in our cities again. So the things I have done in office are the things that actually invest in growing our economy and making wages go up. That's the issue that we need to tackle as Americans, and we can do it, and we know how.
Governor O'Malley, thank you. A spirited debate on taxes, and we'll be much more with the Democratic debate in New Hampshire when we come back right here on ABC.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories 100% commercial-free and subscription-free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level. From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. MoxNews.com.